Ibrox is the venue for the third live match of the season from Scotland and Sky Sports. Tonight, the top two in the Bell's Premier Division last season clash head-on. It's Rangers against Motherwell, two teams with much to live up to. Celtic and Aberdeen set the standard.
Close head up. That's it. And this creates a goal for Joyce. That's the second for Aberdeen. Good running by Collins. Magnificent goal from Collins. Collins cross. He scores. Going alone. It's a great save from Gorham. Magnificent save from Gorham. Gascoigne. Great chance there. It's in. It's a goal for Rangers. Paul McStay. A great save again from Gorham.
And there they are, the Rangers players have recently been arriving at Ibrox. Richard Gough with first in there, Alan McLaren's just behind him. As ever, the autograph hunters are out in their hordes. Ian Ferguson, who's come back to form and back from injury recently as well. Gordon Jury, who's been an influential substitute on many occasions throughout the season. And the Motherwell players that just coming off the bus as well. A very shaky start to the season. Alex McLeish is ever leading from the front there. Strictly a player manager, but hasn't had his boots on for a while. And after that shaky start, they've started to show some form, winning on Saturday for the first time. 4 straight draws in the league, then a victory against Kilmarnock. Well, we're delighted to bring you from the studio this evening in London a couple of people who have a very influential say on Scottish football. First of all, Craig Brown, who's the Scotland coach. Now you've got Nigel Spackman, who of course played with Rangers for several years, one of Souness's early signings. Well, first of all, Craig, you announced your squads today. Generally happy with those players who are fit for Sweden?
Yes, very happy, and the amount of goodwill is exceptional because this is a friendly game, and I've spoken to many managers and the players, and they're very keen to get to Sweden. So we have 37 guys going, we've 18 in the full squad, 19 in the B squad, and I think it's a healthy squad.
You'll be taking 21 if you qualify to England next year.
Yeah, 21, so there are places available. We've got 18 in the full squad at the moment, but it doesn't mean to say that these 18 will be the ones that go, but there's opportunity for some of the younger players in the B team.
All right, let's look at the A team first of all. Let's just run down them in terms of positional play. This is how the A team looks. Starting off with the goalkeepers, Gorham and Leighton, the great dilemma. The defenders are Henry, Boyd, Calderwood, McLaren, McKimmie. Into midfield, John Collins, McStay, McAllister, McKinley, McCall. And up front, Nevin, McGinley, McCoist, Jackson, Booth and Robertson. Let's look at the B squad. They play a day earlier. Gunn, Walker, McEwen are the goalkeepers. McKinley, McKinnon, Tweed, Wright, Martin, White and Burley are the defenders. Lambert, Telfer, Gemmell, Ray, Bernard, Jess and Cameron are the midfielders. Just 2 players upfield, Shearer and Craney. Well, first of all, Craig, some great variety there. But which particular players are you looking for in the B squad to come through, perhaps to the A squad?
Well, unfortunately, the good players in the B squad, or the promising players, are all midfield players, mainly. And we're very strong in midfield. But I think guys like Craig Burley, obviously, Tosh McKinley's in the B squad because he's got less than 6 caps. These 2 guys are A squad material, so And Nigel knows all about Craig, and he's been giving me a good recommendation just now. So these two, plus the midfield boys, Telfer, Gemmell, Bernard, they're all in contention. Ian Jess, of course, is now back to form, but he's now playing in midfield. So I look forward to a good performance from Ian Jess.
All right, well, the people who've been making the headlines have been the goalkeepers. 2 of them, or 3 of them if you say Gorham's still in 2 minds about it. What are your thoughts about this? Let's look at the head-to-head. Here's Andy Gorham, first of all. 33 caps, he's won in 11 games, lost in 11 and drawn in 11, 12 clean sheets. Jim Leighton, far more games there, 69 games in all. He's won 32, that's some record there. Lost only 18, 19 drawn, 33 clean sheets. Let's look at Andy Gorham first of all, a man of tremendous form. He's really shown himself in the last couple of Old Firm games, Craig, hasn't he?
Yes, Andy Gorham is an outstanding goalkeeper, you know, arguably the best in Europe, and I think informed observers would agree with that. We have a brilliant goalkeeping coach, Alan Hodgkinson, and Alan says that technically Andy Gorham's the best he's worked with.
These are all great reaction saves, and that's what you need at top level, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. He's very brave, he's agile, strong goalkeeper, so we're delighted with Andy Gorham, and obviously we've got Jim Leighton as well.
Well, how do you separate him from Leighton? Let's see Leighton in action, because he is immense for his age. I mean, he really has come back with a new lease of life since joining Hibs, hasn't he?
Exactly, yeah. Jim Leighton, first class, and Jim's got a wonderful record recently. I think we've lost 1 goal in the last 7 internationals, and Jim has been in goal in most of them, and he's having a new lease of life at Hibs, and he's outstanding. Again, Alan Hodgkinson thinks the world of Jim Leighton, so any international manager would be glad to have the choice. It's a very difficult choice, and in fact in Sweden we may compromise, we may play a half each.
OK, well that's something we'd like to know exactly what is going to happen. Nigel Spackman, you know them both, how do you rate them both?
I think Andy Gorham is playing out of his skin at the moment. I think he's had, in the last couple of seasons, some bad injuries, and he's come back well, and in the European games he's played tremendously well as well. Steaua Bucharest, I mean, the goal that beat him on the night would have beaten anybody, and some of his saves up to them were fantastic. When I was at Rangers, I think Andy's first season was a bit up and down, but since then I think he's been absolutely outstanding for them, and it's a dilemma for Craig, but a great one for a manager. But as you say, I've seen Jim Leighton on the telly recently and last season, and I think he's been playing so well. It's hard to, if you get in goals and you're not letting any in, then it's hard to put the other guy in. So
better to 2 great goalkeepers than none.
That's right.
Now what about midfield? Because Paul McStay and John Collins are both listed there. Despite John Collins' troubles, they're both in the squad.
Yes, they're both in it. I think John has, in fact, he's our only ever present in the 9 games we've played in the European Championship, and John Collins has been immense. Along with Gary McAllister in midfield, they've been consistently good. We've had wonderful performances early in the campaign from Paul McStay, outstanding play from Stuart McCall, and the very unlucky one is Billy McKinlay, because Billy, when he comes in, does well, but I can't find a place for him as a first-choice midfield player. But again, Billy McKinlay's pushing very hard to stake a claim there.
You've brought back experience with McStay, and McCoy showed that when he scored against Greece, but Scott Booth would appear, from your choice, perhaps to be the #1 striker.
Well, yeah, Scott Booth was starting the season brilliantly. In fact, scored in successive internationals against Russia and then against the Faroe Islands, and then we lost him through injury. So you see Booth here, and that's Saturday's goal. He's ever present in Aberdeen this season, and he's the top scorer in Scotland at the moment. And if he progresses the way he's doing, by the end of the season, we'll have a really outstanding striker, hopefully one that will go with us to the European Championship.
Youth against experience. Alan McCoy keeps knocking them in, but he is getting on a bit.
Oh, well, that's Nigel. He knows him and I know him, and you cannot deny that he's an outstanding striker, Ali McCoy. If he's playing, you always feel he's liable to score, and that's great. And I think, again, a season's fitness for Ali. He's lost a lot of time through injury, and it's very unfortunate that he broke his leg playing for us, for Scotland. So we wish him well, and he's doing well at the moment, and of course he took us through the game you were at against Greece.
That's right. Now, the man who came on with Ali McCoy that night was John Robertson, perhaps the unluckiest striker in a Scotland shirt, because he has been kept out by great strikers down the years.
That's right. I think he's got a terrific club record, John Robertson. You see him scoring here against Hibs, which gave him great delight.
Absolutely, the scourge of Hibs, isn't
Exactly, upset my colleague Alec Miller. But he's liable to do that, and John Robertson will get a run in Sweden at some point, maybe from the start.
Let's look at the B squad. Jerry Crane is another young striker with potential. He seemed to almost make it at Celtic Park and then went south.
Yeah, well, I had Jerry for many games in the under-21 team. In fact, he was instrumental in us getting to the semi-final of the European Championship at under-21. Did exceptionally well, and he's a strong striker. He'll take a chance, he'll work, and I think at Manchester City he'll have a job to do there, and I'll be very interested throughout the season to see how he progresses.
And yet Duncan Shearer, a man who can't get into an Aberdeen shirt, is back in a Scotland shirt for the B team.
There he is with his weaker foot there, sticking one away. And yeah, I've got to include Duncan because always with Scotland he pulls something out of the hat, and he works very, very hard. He's a strong, powerful guy and a brilliant striker of a football.
But the story seems to be, Craig, that you are spoiled for choice, and that's not something every Scotland manager has been in recent years.
Well, I would say that we haven't got the superstars, or the alleged superstars of the past. We haven't got the Jim Baxters and Jimmy Johnsons and guys like that, but we've got a workmanlike squad, a squad that's very good defensively, particularly good in goal and at the back. So, as I say, in the whole championship we've lost only 3 goals, and one was a very doubtful penalty, I thought, in Greece. So we're a good, tight squad and difficult to beat, but I think we could do with more flair from middle to front, and if we could get a striking partnership which plays consistently together, I think we could be a threat. But at the moment we're looking for that elusive striking partnership.
OK, well, tonight it's about the big match. We did see, of course, 7 members of the full Scotland squad named today on display at Celtic Park on Saturday in the first Old Firm League meeting of the season. But it was an uncapped player who broke the deadlock.
Salenko. Well, that's good play, good footwork. Looking for Cleland, great header! Alan Cleland for Rangers! And there's Palm. Josh McKinley. Van Hooydonk waits in the middle. Poor cross though, one easily by McLaren. 2 against 2 up front here. Solanke and McCoy together. That's good play by Solanke. McCoy says Gascoigne racing through the middle. It's great play for Rangers. And Gascoigne has scored! It's a magnificent goal by Gascoigne.
Well, you know that feeling that Paul Gascoigne was going through there, Nigel. You've scored a winner in an Old Firm match before.
Yes, it was my first Old Firm game. Well, this was obviously Paul's second one, but first league game, and I was lucky enough to score at Parkhead as well.
That atmosphere is something special, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. I think in your first game you don't really realise what it's all about, but we played them, I think, a couple of weeks later in the Cup and lost, and then I knew what it was all about, I can assure you. When you lose, you know. Everybody
thought in the late 80s that team was strong. Is this team stronger than it was then?
I think it's very hard to compare. You can only be the best every year, you know, and that's what Rangers are doing at the moment. They're dominating Scottish football, and they need Celtic to come back to push them all the way. To improve the standard up there, really, because people keep talking about British leagues and European leagues and that. But I think if Rangers had Celtic and Aberdeen and maybe Dundee United getting promotion again and pushing, then it's still a very good league.
OK, let's take in the Lanarkshire perspective for a minute. Motherwell finally notched up their first league victory on Saturday after 4 straight draws. Kilmarnock with the team at the receiving end. That was 3 goals, Nigel, on Saturday, and if Motherwell had lacked something, it was bite this season, but they seem to find it on Saturday, and I think it's always important when someone like Tommy Coyne can start notching up the goals. He's been their top scorer for 2 years now.
Yeah, Tommy Coyne was a very good player when he was at Celtic, and then obviously went off to Tranmere, where things unfortunately didn't work for him, and he had a few problems there, as everybody knows. But he's been scoring goals on a regular basis for Motherwell. Last season he scored plenty of goals, and that's why they finished so high in the league. And people like Dougie Arnott and people like that, I mean, they're good finishers as well.
It's important that Motherwell do get some momentum going. 4 straight draws, effectively now with 3 points for a win, means that they're way behind in the race.
Yes, with 3 points, it's great that they've brought it in up there. I think it makes teams attack each other. But the thing is, when you're the champions and when you're Rangers, everybody wants to beat you.
Tommy Coyne obviously is looking to do well for Motherwell tonight. Can he pierce through that Rangers defence?
I think the defences look very solid now. They've sorted it out with the 5 at the back, or the 3 at the back, however you look at it. And with Andy Gorham in such good form, and Richard Gough playing out of his skin, I think, by what I've told at the moment, I think it's going to be very difficult for them tonight, especially at Ibrox.
Well, let's have a little look to see how the table lies, because we're only 5 matches into the season, but already there is a shape to it. Now, the teams at the bottom, actually, Falkirk and Kilmarnock, have struggled to score any goals at all. But what Rangers are doing is they're not conceding any goals. 1 goal conceded in 5 matches, Craig. Very impressive.
Very impressive, and I agree with Nigel. I think tonight's game will be determined by the success that the respective strikers have.
OK, let's just run through that. Rangers, of course, are on 12 points. Aberdeen and Celtic tucked in on 10. Hibernian on 9 points, having drawn on Saturday there. Motherwell, with their 4 draws, are 7 points. And after that, Partick Thistle, Wraith Rovers, Hearts, Falkirk and Kilmarnock. Tomorrow's fixtures will have a bearing on all that. Of course, tonight's will as well. Rangers can go 5 points clear, but this is what happens in the Premier Division tomorrow. It's Falkirk against Celtic, that's at Brockville. Hearts at Tynecastle take on Aberdeen. Partick Thistle against Kilmarnock are in Glasgow, and Wraith Rovers against Hibernian, the 4th of these fixtures. Well, let's just have a little look at what's going on at Ibrox just now, that impressive stadium there, with a capacity at the moment of 46,000 beginning to fill up just now. Of course, it's being filled in the corners, and that means that by next year, something like 55,000 people will be able to pack in. After the break, we're back with exclusively live coverage, Rangers against Motherwell. Live treat we have for you between now and the turn of the year. 5 more live matches here in Sky Sports. This is what you can look forward to. Rangers against Aberdeen is the Coca-Cola Cup semi-final. It's coming up exclusively live from Hampden Park. That's October the 24th, a Tuesday night, and it's 7 p.m. Next match up is Motherwell against Hearts, our first live view of Hearts in that time. That's November the 7th, another Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Sunday, November the 19th, is when we can see the derby in Edinburgh. It's Hearts against Hibs. Remember, these points were shared on Sunday. And then we're looking forward to the Coca-Cola Cup final. That's the final match of this exciting competition, November the 26th, a 3 p.m. kickoff that day. And the final one for the year is Motherwell against Rangers. That's the return match of tonight's fixture. That coming from Fir Park on December the 19th, 7 o'clock. Now the fans are beginning to flood into Ibrox Stadium just now. Very much in European fashion, sporting the colours. We're looking forward to another treat tonight. They've only seen 1 home defeat this season. We've seen plenty of goals from Rangers. They're certainly in form, and only 1 goal conceded. That from the penalty spot against Hibs a week past Saturday. Now our guests in the studio tonight are the Scotland manager, Craig Brown, and with him is Nigel Spackman, formerly a Ranger player. Let's just have a little look at what happened at Ibrox. Having spent some £10 million on players during the summer, Rangers had very little time in which to integrate them before the season had begun. The domestic season started for Rangers against Morton in the Coca-Cola Cup at Ibrox. A comfortable win set up by Ali McCoist's opening goal. Mark Haitley had added a second before the then blonde Paul Gascoigne got his first competitive goal for the club. They then went to Cyprus and got the 0-0 draw that secured a place in the Champions League. And all this before starting the defence of the Scottish title at home to Kilmarnock. Here's a chance for McCoist, and it's McCall! Stuart McCall scores for Rangers! From 3-0 up, Rangers scraped home 3-2 against Stirling Albion in the Coca-Cola Cup, but there were no such problems in the league. Wraith Rovers, the next side to be dispatched at Ibrox. It was 4-0 going on 10 that day, including 2 more for Ali McCoist. The Champions League started badly, a late goal meaning defeat in Bucharest, but once again Rangers bounced back in the championship. Orlok Solanka was improving by the game and chipped in here with his first goal at Falkirk. David Robertson got the second to keep Rangers top of the table going into the first Old Firm meeting of the season, a Coca-Cola Cup quarter-final at Celtic Park, settled by 1 moment of sheer magic.
Gascoigne, great chance there, it's in, it's a goal for Rangers!
Rangers in the semi-finals then, but there was a shock in store. Darren Jackson's penalty giving Hibs victory in the league at Ibrox and knocking Rangers off the top. Gascoigne hogged the headlines with his best performance so far against Dortmund in the Champions League. But there was more to come on Saturday in the league away to Celtic.
Selenko. That's good play. Good one. Looking for Clement. Great header! Alec Clement for Rangers. That's good play by Selenko. Royce is Gascoigne racing through the middle. Great play for Rangers. And Gascoigne has scored! It's a magnificent goal by Gascoigne.
So Walter Smith's side is back at the top. By the end of tonight, they could lead by 5 points. This is how Rangers have done this season. They've played 5, they've won 4 in the league, drawn none, lost that 1 to Hibs. 12 points, 9 goals for, 1 conceded. Best record in Britain. Overall, they've played 3 at home, 1-2, drawn none, lost 1, 0.6 for 5 goals against 1. As for the scorers in the league, McCoy's 2, Robertson 2, others have 1 each. Time to hear from the manager. Walter Smith now is with Davy Provan at Ibrox.
Walter, let me ask you first of all about the injuries to Brian Laudrup and Charlie Miller. When do you hope to have either or both of them back in the Rangers side?
It's very difficult to know when we'll get them back. Brian Laudrup's case, he sees a specialist in London on Thursday, and we'll have a better idea then. Charlie Miller, medical people tell us that we've got the start of shin splints, which is causing him a bit of pain at the present moment. He's to rest, and that clears up, then he'll attempt to come back again, and it is a problem that can keep recurring if we're not careful.
This will be Rangers' 8th game in 25 days tonight. When you're playing so often, do you expect now to have 3 or 4 players injured at any one time?
Well, I think when you look at the seasons previously, we've always had that, and we always try and account for that. And you're obviously hoping that you don't get any injuries, but very difficult tonight. We have maybe 6 players from a pool of players out, so it's always difficult to try and gauge how many you're going to have. Very difficult for us at the present moment.
You come into tonight's match after 2 excellent performances against Dortmund and Celtic. What have those 2 results done for the confidence of your dressing room?
Well, I think they've done a great deal for the confidence. We started, and I think like anything else, when you play in the preliminary round of the European Cup, it's a very important match to play, and there's a lot of nerves attached to that. And although we won through in that one, it wasn't the best of performances from us, so we were taking a little bit of stick at the start, and it takes you a wee while to get going in the season, and unfortunately you don't get many opportunities nowadays. Everybody's judging you from very early form. We've needed the games that we've had in recent weeks, the very difficult ones. We were away in Bucharest at Stour, and then at home to Dortmund. The Celtic games, both in the League Cup and the League, we needed them to get our season going. Fortunately, we've got reasonable results in them, and I feel now, we're up and playing into the season. We're showing the aggression that's necessary for us to win matches.
The last time we spoke, you said you were reserving judgment on the sweeper system that you've introduced at Ibrox this season. Now, 1 goal lost in 5 league matches would suggest that you're getting it right. Would you agree?
Well, that's the case. There's 1 or 2 other problems involved in that other than the defending. The defensive part has been very good. Nearly all our matches this season. We were disappointed with the type of goal we lost against Dortmund last week. But in that sense, it's worked okay that way. But in terms of midfield and going forward, we still have a little bit to do to make sure that it's right there.
A lot of eyebrows were raised when you brought Gary Boland and Alec Cleland here to Ibrox. How satisfied were you with Alec Cleland's contribution on Saturday?
Well, he's played very well for us since he's came. We were short of players last season because of injury, and we got Alec and Gary to come here. And Alec's played very well for us over that period. He's starting now to play in a wider area, as what do they call it nowadays, a wing back or whatever they call it. And he's doing very well indeed. He's getting up, getting attempts at goal, and he seems to be enjoying the position.
Enjoy it tonight, Walter.
Okay, thank you.
There we are, Walter Smith on the strengths of his team. Well, what are the strengths of that Rangers team, Craig?
Well, Walter hit the nail on the head. They don't lose goals. They're very, very difficult to score against. And he says that from middle to front they might be a little better, but I think their recent performances have been outstanding. And no one would have believed that without Laudrup they could have played so well. You see, last season they depended a lot on Laudrup. That was the feeling. And I think I shared that feeling. But without Laudrup to have done so well, I think is a great credit to Walter and Archie Knox. The team is knitted together beautifully. And I think they can do something in the Champions League. I would be very, very disappointed if they don't qualify, because I think that performance against Dortmund was exceptionally good. And the 2 games against Celtic, the last 2 have been very good also.
They seem to be getting stronger as the weeks are going on.
They are, and Celtic are a good side. Don't minimise the performances that they've had. So for Rangers to have won 2 games at Celtic Park and to have done so well against Dortmund, I think augurs very well for Rangers.
Okay, Nigel, somebody you know well, Ali McCoist. You can't keep him down. Effervescent, and even though the legs are getting a bit tireder, He just shows week after week he's got a tremendous enthusiasm for the game. And this perhaps is one of the great examples of where McCoist is really moving into a position we don't normally see him in.
No, and he doesn't normally pick out players like that either. But no, seriously, Ali's all-round game has improved immensely, I think, from the first time I was at Ibrox. But the most important thing to Rangers is that he puts the ball in the back of the net. And for any good side, any successful side, you need someone who can put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. And Ali McCoist certainly does that.
He certainly doesn't hang around, and here's one final example. This perhaps was the most important goal for Rangers this season. Only one man could have scored it.
Yes, I mean, I watched that in the hotel room when we were away in Stoke, and I was watching the game with John Spencer, and we were going, well, I think Celtic maybe is slightly pushing this in, and then all of a sudden Gazza hits a great ball to the far post, and there's Ali. And he normally can't head it anyway, you know. But he did there, and it's a great goal, and everybody loves his celebrations.
But as Craig was saying, it really is as important to keep the defence tight at the back. Gough seems to be playing better than ever.
Yeah, I think he's the spare man at the back, I think. And he's enjoying that role. And Richard's very strong and he's quick. And I think after the initial hiccups, as any club would have, changing the system to 5 at the back, when they changed it, I think, against the Cypriot side early in the season, at half-time they changed it back to a 4 because it wasn't working for them. But now they've got it off to a T, at the back especially. And I think Richard's playing so well, you know, that, I mean, obviously he's had his problems with Scotland, but I'd like to see him back in Craig's squad.
You ready to name him again, are you?
Well, not at the moment, no. We're doing very well defensively. I keep saying we've lost 1 goal in 7 matches. It was a penalty against Ecuador, so we're doing quite well without Richard, although I agree with Nigel, he's playing very well. But I think the key man there, the excellent signing was Petric, because Petric has composure at the back. He marks very well and he defends well, but he's excellent at using the ball, and he's breaking from the right marking position. And Richard fills in for him when Petric goes forward. So it's a very good system they've got.
It's always difficult when a team tries to change its system. It's always there to be criticised, but Rangers seem to have managed.
Yeah, I know that at the outset when I took the national team job, I started with that system and I got a lot of criticism, but I stuck to it because it worked well for me at under 21 level. And now I think, you know, I modelled it honestly on the German system because I thought they were very efficient and we had to be efficient. So I looked at the German setup. And we see all the German teams play that way, and the national German side plays that way. So Rangers are now doing it, Hibs are now doing it, Motherwell, a lot of Scottish clubs, and it's quite flattering to see the change. And I think it obviously enables you to get more of your key midfield players. And I think Rangers changed because they had Gascoigne and Laudrup. That was another reason, not purely defensively, to get these 2 guys into the team and in positions which would hurt the opposition. They chose a 5-man midfield.
OK, are you expecting some goals tonight, Craig?
No, I think goals will have to come by. I'm going to be a bit disappointed. I think we'll see an excellent game, good quality football from 2 excellent Scottish sides. But I think the defences are so good. The Motherwell back 3 are also very efficient. We've got Brian Martin there, we've got John Phillippen there and Chris McCart. And McCart is the spare one. And he's very experienced. So I think Rangers might find it difficult to score, and certainly Motherwell will find it difficult to score. So a lot depends on the strikers in view. All
right, we'll take a longer, closer look at Motherwell, and that's coming after the break. In all, 190 matches have been played between the 2 sides. Rangers won 130 of them. Motherwell have won 31 of them. 29 have been drawn. As far as Ibrox is concerned, they are 95 matches the total. Rangers won 75, Motherwell 8 and 12 drawn. They've done relatively well in recent years at Ibrox Park. Motherwell, of the 20 recent fixtures, 17 Rangers have won, but 3 at Ibrox Park have been won by Motherwell. And this is one example. This comes from last year. Now, when Rangers had won the championship, it was all sealed up by then, but Motherwell came to Ibrox and took a 2-goal advantage. Rangers, of course, lost a few goals in the last few games of the season, but Dougie Arnott again showing his potential to find a way through the Ibrox defence. Sean McSkinning scored the second one here for Motherwell, and Rangers at that time were leaking goals, something they're not doing this season. Alex McLeish is the man who's responsible for getting his tactics right tonight. He's talking to Davy Provan.
Alec, how relieved were you on Saturday to finally get a league victory after 4 successive draws?
Yeah, we're very relieved. I think that the performances of late have been very good. And it was only a bit of misfortune that didn't allow us to get the 3 points. But the lads responded very well on Saturday. Made a couple of changes, and the guys that have come in have performed well for us.
Jamie Dolan in tonight for Billy Davis. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, we're coming to Ibrox, and I think it's not about 11 players, it's about a squad over the whole season. And I feel that, Dolan's strength in the midfield might help us